pepper pie.
Ghost pepper pie.
You know, I really wanted to try that one ghost pepper chip that they had. Or no, it was the California Reaper one.
Yeah, but does it come in the like the coffin?
Have
you seen
that? Whatever happened to
that? Everyone wanted to do it because everyone started making YouTube videos about it. So it got bought out.
I'm hungry.
Welcome to Folie, the podcast where we rate and rant all things spooky, but it's really just movies.
Just movies.
It's just movies. And Jessica, welcome to 2021. And guess what?
It's as bad as 2020.
Holy shit. We're off to a good start.
The world hasn't improved, and neither has this podcast.
And guess what? This podcast, although we haven't improved, we're on season 2. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, especially because we dictate our
when our seasons end. Yeah, we didn't even say like when the last episode. Technically, the last episode was the season ender.
We just made it up.
What a dud! But so we decided, since it's a new year, we might as well just say it's a new season. We just plan on doing this forever, so we might as well just do it based on a yearly kind of thing. Oh, why not? So that'll probably be our shortest season yet, and this will be the longest season yet. So that's pretty neat.
Depending on how we feel.
Well, how the world ends up and stuff. So, Jessica, we did the spooky spinner, and to start off this new year, I think it's kind of fitting because this specific movie started off the 2010s within the horror genre. So now that we're starting the 2020s, it's interesting that we're watching the same movie.
I'm not following this logic at all. And I think you kind of lost it along the way.
No,
too.
I didn't. I knew where it's going. The movie came out in 2010.
Wait, did you say the movie?
The movie. I know. I didn't want to say it yet. I was going to say what it was. It's Insidious. Jesus. They already know this. They know this. They downloaded this episode already. They know what movie it is.
It's Insidious.
It's Insidious. Oh my God.
Happy 2021.
So let's just dive into this piece of shit. So I noticed that this movie.
I'm sorry, that was just so stupid. Okay, keep going.
So let's just dive into this. Insidious came out in 2010.
Whoa.
Or 2009. I've noticed when I'm like looking up dates and stuff for when movies come out, or like when you see an IMDb, it says, like 2010 or whatever. But then I'll look on other things and it'll be like, no, it came out 2009. And I'm like, well, what the fuck? It said 2010 on here, and it says 2010 on here, but then over here it says 2009. And I noticed that with Cabin in the Woods. But anyways, Insidious came out in 2010. Or So We're Told. Directed by James Wan. Do you know James Wan?
I think so.
That's right. He did the Conjuring movies, and we did the Conjuring. He did Conjuring 1 and 2. He didn't do the third one. I believe the third one came out. Isn't that like The Last Key?
No, that's Insidious.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Well, here we go. So James Wan also did Saw and Aquaman. In Aquaman.
Oh yeah, fuck you.
Yeah, soon to be Aquaman 2. And within like the casting too, it's interesting because you see Patrick Wilson, who's like once again in this movie, as well as what's the other movie he's in that I always get confused with, where he's Ed Warren.
He's in The Conjuring, yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna give everyone trivia right off the fucking bat. You ready for this?
Oh yeah.
Ethan Hawke turned down the role.
What?
For this role for Josh.
For Sinister.
To do, but later accepted the lead role in Sinister not long afterwards. I don't know what the reason why he didn't do this movie.
Yeah, because it wasn't like he saw this and then it was like...
Right. So Patrick Wilson, it just seems like Patrick Wilson's never actually the top choice. It's always just like, oh, he's filling in.
And they just keep going back to him and he just keeps accepting it. It's like someone who's like, you're kind of dating, but they're also seeing other people and you're just on the side.
And I'd say too, like, I wasn't a huge fan of his performance in this movie.
Yeah, just someone on the side. It's like they're always there. They're not great you're not going to commit to
He's
them.
there. He's someone that you'd like seen before. You're like, oh,
like they'll get the job done.
Oh, and then the same thing with Rose Byrne, or Renee in this movie.
Rickety Renee.
She. You just come up with that? Just that?
That's better than your bit.
Let's just bring this. Hey, let's just bring this. We'll bring it out into the world and see if people start saying it. And we go, hey, you mean Rickety Renee? She was the scariest part of this movie.
And why is that, Rob?
She is ungodly skinny. Like, I think you brought up while we were watching the movie, she's like an alien. I mean, I don't know if that's just kind of like her natural metabolism or what, but it's something that I keep thinking about during the whole movie. Is every time I see her, I'm just like, good God, that like, and the movie already feels cold. Yep. And when you have no body fat, I just get colder looking at her. And she constantly wears like really tight clothing, or like not. It's
not tight clothing, but it's like it's very thin, kind of like material clothing.
You can see the shape flowy, of her body.
You can really see kind of like
she's wearing
just
t-shirts
how thin
and stuff.
She is.
Yeah. I was saying, like, if I was in charge of the wardrobe and the directing and stuff, I'd be like, I'd try to divert as much attention away from her body as possible.
I know we're supposed to be shooting in California, but if you could wear a winter jacket, it's to beef up there.
It's just like there's so many shots, and you're like, oh no. That's the feeling I get, is like, oh no, because it's not like a skinny where it's like a healthy skinny. It's like a skinny where you're like,
it's borderline
someone's got to ask,
concerning,
or something's got to happen here.
It's very, I don't know. Hopefully she's okay.
Yeah. So, this movie is about a family looking to prevent evil spirits from trapping their comatose child in a realm called the Further. Well, I guess like right off the bat, what do you think of this movie?
So I've seen this movie quite a bit. Mm-hmm. I think when it first came out, everyone was really excited for it. I think it got pretty decent reviews when it first came out. I'm sure I liked it then. I don't like it now. I don't know if it's just I've overwatched it, or if it's like actual issues that I have with the movie. I think we'll probably suss that out when we talk about it.
Yeah, would you say it's more like Death by 1,000 Cuts? Is it
like strangulation?
Strangulation. I have to admit, like, I have a very subjective kind of sweet spot to it, just because I do remember when it came out, and I do remember that it was competing against like slasher movies, and not even just slasher, but like really gory movies, and that's all they were for horror movies in the latter end of 2000s. It was just really annoying. Mm-hmm. And I could even just say like the summer/fall, horror movie hits that are coming out. Summer/fall. So this one really stuck out to me, and I enjoyed it because of that. And I was like, finally, something else. And in retrospect now, I mean, I wouldn't say like I found too many. I'm not like specifically looking for plot holes or anything. Mm-hmm. I think the progression is fine throughout the movie. It's what I think is funny though. Like I keep forgetting about certain scenes in this movie. I've seen it a lot too, and every time I'm like, I don't know if I want to watch it, and then we watch it, and then I keep being like, oh yeah, I forgot about that scene. I forgot about that scene. There was actually a lot more than I remember, because I remember telling you when we first were about to watch it, it was like it's a pretty quick watch. But then I was like, never mind. It's actually not that quick, because I keep forgetting about all those other scenes.
So you lied to me.
I did lie to you. And I'm not sorry about it. But I don't know. Like I seem to enjoy certain things about it. I think knowing what I know too about some of the trivia, I like it a little bit. I think that helps me liking it too. But obviously there's things that are just kind of stupid as to, choices that they make within the movie that bother me. But we'll get into that too, like you said. By that, let's just jump into this movie.
Do it, man.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, they did get some awards when it came out. Best horror movie, IGN Summer Movie Awards, the Fright Meter Awards, Best Horror Movie, Best Supporting Actress by Lynn Shay, who I think I like her the most out of.
Who is that?
That was Elise.
I wasn't a huge fan of her.
No, I liked Elise. And then Fangoria Chainsaw Awards, which was like 2 years after the movie came out. But I don't know what those awards mean to those out there, but they're there.
They are. Oh, we're ready. Okay. At the beginning of the film, we have a family that's moving into a new house, and we have the mom, Renee, the father, Josh, and their 3 kids.
Yes.
We have the oldest, and he's probably, what would you guess? Like, I think we kind of estimated like around 10 or 12.
He's seen, maybe not 12.
That's why well, like 10, give or take.
Purely on looks, not on how he talks, which is stupid.
Yeah, it's really stupid. We have issues with that. But so their oldest son, Dalton, his younger brother, Foster, and then the little baby.
Just a baby.
Which I can't remember her name.
Crying McCryerson.
Callie. That's it. Yeah.
Callie.
She wouldn't fucking shut up. Which
it was every scene that baby was crying.
God, I hate when babies cry. Like, not for like a sentimental reason, but just because it's like nails on a chalkboard. Yeah.
Or violins screeching.
It's like an operatic cat.
Oh, speaking of, this movie, they use a lot of violins for the theme music. And right off the bat, when the movie starts, it goes right into Insidious. And then it's all just violins. That's 33 violins they used to create that.
Yeah, I will say you are terrible at mimicking violins. Yeah, but no, you're right. Yeah, as soon as the title comes up, it's like this. Just it sucks when you're watching it at home, movies like this. Like in the theater, I get it. You're trying to like immerse the audience, but at home, you're changing the volume like up and down and up and down, so you can hear them speaking when they're speaking really low. But then you have the music that goes. Da!
If anyone watches like or has watched the movie Uncle Buck, it's just like that. It's not even just Uncle Buck. I've noticed like if there's movies in the 80s, where they're just like. It's insane. They're like shitty mixing where the sound effects and the music so fucking loud, and then when they talk, it's like they whisper, and it's like that in this movie.
Yeah. So, anyways, we have this family that's moving into a new house. It looks like Josh is a teacher, and Renee has kind of decided to stay home, and she is either like a composer or a musician. She's just kind of working on her music. And there are some parts in the movie where it's kind of like this is supposed to be almost like a fresh start for them. Mm-hmm. So they're unpacking, and as they're settling into the house, certain little things happen. Like Renee puts some books on a little bookshelf, and she goes into another room. When she comes back, the books are knocked down. And so just like little kind of paranormal stuff like that happens. One night, the family's all just kind of hanging out in the family room, and Dalton's playing upstairs, and they have this attic door that he's kind of playing in front of, and it creaks open, of course. Mm-hmm. He goes up there into this really creepy, dusty attic where I don't know. I mean, I've never bought a house, but how often is it that the people who used to live there leave all of their fucking shit? And I don't get it. Whatever. But that happens in every horror movie. Yeah. So it's all this like dirty, dusty shit. And he
oddly enough, oddly enough, like also in Conjuring.
Yeah, in The Conjuring, the same thing.
I believe this movie, James Wan actually had the Conjuring series in mind when he made this movie, and which obviously led to the multiple sequels, which there's another one that's going to come out soon.
What?
So.
Okay, so Dalton's in the attic. It's pitch dark, and he goes to try and reach a little light switch, and it's just one of those strings that you have to pull on, and he has to climb up this little ladder, and he's going up, and he gets to like the 3rd rung, and it just breaks, and he falls back. Somehow he manages
barely a foot.
Yeah, he felt like he barely falls, but he manages to hit the front of his head.
Yeah,
even though
he's got a scrape on the front of his head. We joke that he was like holding his head, or he was rubbing his head, and he's like, ow. And then when he talks to his dad, he's like, my leg hurts. And you're like, motherfucker, you're holding your head. You hurt your head, you hurt your leg.
Kids are stupid.
You bitch.
So he falls over, and he's kind of knocked out for a little bit. And then he sits himself up, and he looks into the corner of the attic. And we don't see anything as the audience, but we hear it's like almost like cracking of like your joints or your bones or
Yeah.
something like that, or like crunching
Stepping on.
of sticks in
Yep.
the woods. So it's this weird kind of like cracking sound, and this kind of horror look goes on his face. He screams, and again, another thing that I hate is that this kid screams like an idiot.
Yeah, the first scream is
The first scream is like you tell some kid, just be like, "Hey,
you're
can you
scared.
scream?
Scream, you saw something."
That's it. It's like Home Alone.
Yeah, it's like he's very aware that he needs to scream.
Yeah, but it's not like a terrified little kid scream. Like
to be fair, the second scream he does is
a little bit better.
You're like, it should be more high pitched.
Yeah,
and he did do that in the second scream. But it's like, if he did that in the second, just make that the first scream.
Yeah. Come on, guys.
Whatever.
Anyways, his family and of course his family hears this scream versus all of the other screams that happen.
Yeah.
So his parents hear him. They run upstairs. They find him on the floor still, and they can see that he's fallen off the ladder, and his parents scold him a little bit just because they're worried, and then they tell him, no one comes up here anymore. Like, you clearly hit your head. Let's just
be like, why did you even go up here anyways? I wouldn't. If I was a kid, saw a door opening by itself, I wouldn't go, whoa.
I know.
Explore. Let's go up and see what made this noise.
I would go the opposite way. Yeah. I would go downstairs.
I would puke.
And
where I stand, and poo my pants, run back downstairs and say, "Mommy, Daddy, I puked and pooped my pants."
I puked my pants. So the family goes to bed, and the next day we see them all getting up, getting ready for school, for work, and they're in the kitchen. And then the dad goes upstairs to go wake up Dalton because he's not ready yet. So he goes up and he's like, "Hey, Dalton, let's, come on, buddy, time to wake up." And then he goes closer to Dalton. Dalton's not moving. And then he realizes, like, this kid might be fucking dead.
That's my boy.
That's my boy.
That's my
son. So we have a cut that immediately goes to a hospital. Dalton's being monitored. The parents are talking to a doctor, and the doctor isn't giving them any information because they don't know what's wrong. He's telling them that, like, all the vitals are normal. Like, he doesn't have a concussion. We don't know what this is. It's kind of like a coma, but there's no explanation for this.
Right.
And at this point, it's been a few days. So they've been monitoring him for a few days. And he leaves them by just saying, we'll have to, run more tests and just kind of wait this out. Later in the next scene, we're now taken back to their house, and we have a nurse that is walking Renee through, like, all of these steps that they have to do to take care of Dalton because he's still knocked out, but now he has all of this medical shit in his little bedroom and everything like that. And it's been 3 months. So my God, the bills that would rack up. You're living in California. The one provider is a teacher. And now you got a kid in a coma.
Yeah.
Oh, God, that would be the worst. So now things start to get kind of creepy. And it's during the day, it's at home. Renee's working. She's playing the piano. And she has a little baby monitor for Callie, who's upstairs in her bedroom. And as she's playing the piano, she starts to hear some weird static coming through the baby monitor. And she just stops, listens, and then she starts to hear a voice. Just kind of like softly at first, but it's clearly a man's voice. And then she grabs the baby monitor and just is kind of walking around because she's, like, confused, obviously. And then the voice starts to get angrier and louder. And it's like, I want it. I'm going to take it, or something. Like, it says something along those lines. And then there's kind of this, like, loud, I don't know, like, bang or something where the baby starts screaming too. Yep. And the voice yells, like, I'm going to take it now. And so she runs upstairs. She looks in the baby's room. And I think one of the good things that they do in this movie is that this creepy stuff happens during the day too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because this is like midday. It's bright. Even in the baby's room, as soon as she goes in, she grabs the baby and you can see all of the corners of the room. She checks everywhere,
it's a really small room.
It's a small room, but it's like everything's out in the open and this is still happening. So she is definitely kind of shooken up, and when her husband comes home, she tells Josh about this, and he justifies it by saying these things pick up static all the time. So that's probably what it is. And then that night, Renee is putting Foster to bed, and Foster is talking to her saying how he wants to switch rooms because he is scared, and she asks him why he would be scared, and he tells her, well, I don't really like it when Dalton walks around. Which, kids say scary shit.
That's fucking
and
creepy.
So that would be really fucking creepy. If your kid who's in a coma is freaking out your like fully awake child, and that child is saying, well, coma kid's walking around.
He keeps waking me up.
Then I think this is like one of the nights where Renee is still, she's like on edge. Josh can tell, and they're just kind of like talking, going to bed, and then they hear knocking on the front door. So he goes down to check it out. He just kind of looks around the windows, opens the door, looks outside, no one's there, goes, shuts the door, locks it, checks the alarm, and is like, okay, that was really weird. Like, kind of something you can't explain, but whatever. He kind of walks around, and then all of a sudden we have the alarms going off.
Yeah.
So just blaring alarms. He's running around trying to turn them off. Then we see the front door like completely wide open after he had deadbolted it, completely locked it up. And Renee, who's upstairs, is checking on the baby because, of course, the baby is crying. And then on the opposite side of the room facing her as she's walking in, we see this like big, tall man in like this dark gray or dark black long coat standing kind of almost over the crib.
Yeah. And I kind of liked it in the sense that like you could miss it. If it's one of those things where it's like, if you see it for a second, you're probably not going to see it. But if you look a little bit longer, you can, because it's not like he's just standing there. He's hidden behind.
There's like this like kind of netting that's hanging over the crib.
Yep.
And so he's standing behind that. So it's kind of like this little like veil almost.
And this is all with lights on and everything too, right?
Well, this is at night, so it's not
at night, but
it's
there's
not
still
as
lights
clear,
on
but there's there are lights on in the house.
Right.
So it's not like it's a pitch black room or anything like that. So yeah, you definitely can see something. So she sees it and screams. Josh runs up because she's now got the baby, and she's telling him there's a man in the room. I saw him. He was standing right there.
Yeah, and I with the whole door thing too, we were just talking about how like he chooses not to close the door away.
Yeah. He goes to see, like, because the alarms are going off, he turns around, the door's open, and instead of shutting the door, he goes and checks around and turns on the lights in the house with the door wide open.
Everything he did was really slow, which I can understand in some ways, but all right, let's get going. The other thing I noticed too, the door, they clearly show that the door has a screen door on the front because he uses it when he first opens the door and looks to see if anyone's out there. There's a screen door there. But then when the door is wide open, that screen door is gone.
Yeah.
And then when he closes it and it's open again or whatever, the screen door is just completely vanished.
Well, the ghost took it.
And I'm trying to remember if the screen door was even there on the exterior shots. I can't remember.
I have no idea. The house is very like there are certain areas of it that are very strange because like inside you're trying to place where like certain windows are. There's like this stained glass window on the top of like the stairs that you can't. It doesn't look like it would show out in like outside. Yeah,
it's odd. Like I think they do a pretty good job giving you a good sense of how the house is kind of built, or like where everything is in the house. But when it comes to smaller details like that, I'm going to consider it smaller just because they don't interact with these other windows or exterior kind of like or like the stained glass like we were talking about, and how like that stained glass window that's on the staircase is constantly lit, but lit with like yellow, like a warm color, where every other window is like a blue kind of hue to it, even when it's dark out, even when it's night.
It
that's
looks like
constantly
there's some
lit.
kind of
So you're just like
showing through
you're like, is there a room behind there, or is there a light that they have outside? But and then the other thing I did notice this too, when he like puts on the light for the porch and it goes out, I'm pretty sure in the same sequence when they do an exterior shot, it shows the light on. But like I said, I still think they did we were talking about how
it's laid out exactly like The Conjuring.
Yeah, but the difference with The Conjuring is The Conjuring felt like a set. This still feels a little bit more like a house.
Well, this, you know what I mean? In the sense that like this house is a newer like it's clearly like a newer house, and it looks like a house that you would just see in any kind of like nicer neighborhood versus The Conjuring, where it's like this old farmhouse, but like
Could
see
it be
how
haunted?
yeah, it's like it looks like the walls are moldy.
Yeah, you're just like, what do you expect?
Yeah.
Of course it's haunted.
Yeah, look at that thing.
So like I and we'll talk a little bit more about this, but I used to watch a lot of like ghost shows. And typically the places that seem to be like the most haunted are actually just like people's houses that aren't like the spooky or whatever. So they tend to steer away from that. And I do. And it's the same thing with Paranormal Activity. Like you wouldn't look at that newer house and be like, this is a haunting or this is a haunted house. I think the common link though is it's not the house, it's the person when it comes to this instance. But I tend to like that more than just like that's, you know, quintessential cliche haunted house with the cobwebs and
all that
dust and
shit. Anyway, so the family is being kind of harassed more and more by these weird paranormal occurrences, to the point where Renee is checking in on Dalton and she's like changing the sheets or something, and then she sees under the covers on the bed sheet this like red print of a hand, but it's not like a normal hand. It has like these like really long fingers too. So it's like this weird distorted hand. And Josh has like throughout this time has like been coming home less and less, or spending less and less time at home. So he's like staying late to grade papers and this and that. And so she confronts him about it and shows him this sheet. They have another terrible night where she sees someone like walking around the house and she pleads that they need to move. They
not
have
only
to
walk, he like attacked her.
Yeah, he attacks her, like this ghost like attacks her. And so she's freaking out. Josh is there and he finally agrees like, okay, we'll move. Which again, we talked about this when we were watching the movie. I really appreciate
that was
because
great.
I swear to God, if I start seeing shit and I'm like, this apartment is haunted, and you say, no, you're seeing things.
You're silly.
Yeah.
We're living here forever. It's like the stupid, hello, anyone there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I heard a noise, but I'm going to check it out.
I'm going to go take a shower.
We're going to discuss shower issues in this episode. So now the family has moved to another house. It's a smaller house, but things are like seeming like they're better. This house actually, it doesn't feel as heavy.
Yeah.
It has like a lighter presence to it. And Renee, again, is at home during the day. She's unpacking, and her mother-in-law, Josh's mother, was there earlier and was helping her unpack. And it was actually really sympathetic to what Renee has been going through.
Yeah.
Like very, very understanding, which usually in movies, when we have someone who's freaking out about seeing stuff, you have people who are more skeptical and they're not going to just like outright believe you.
They're just like, what were you doing? Are you not sleeping well, or what's wrong with you? You drinking now?
Are you eating still?
Oh. Didn't she make a remark like that or something? She's like,
she's like, you just look so tired. And like, you shouldn't be lifting. You should be like resting. And I was like, yeah,
she should.
But, which was, kind of really nice just to have that support for Renee.
Sure. Yeah. And not even like, it's not like it's not her mom. It's
Josh's mom.
Josh's mom too.
And she kind of tells Renee, you don't need to explain yourself. Like you did what you need to do for your family. Keep doing it. You do you. Boo boo. So Renee's home again. It's just Dalton still in a coma. The baby.
Coma Dalton.
Coma Dalton. And she's putting away boxes and she's taking out trash, and she just puts like this kind of record on.
Did they say like the other brother where he was? I feel like
he's got to be at school.
We just don't see him though.
We don't see him. No, he is barely there the rest of the movie. But it's like it's during the day. Josh isn't there, so it's like you are assuming they're both at a school. If you
what about at night? What about at the end of the movie? Where is he? They
said that they were with some, like, I thought they said they were with the grandma.
Is it like a throwaway line?
But yeah, it's just something like you don't ever really see him. But anyways, so she's taking out the trash. She had just put on a record of like kind of like classical music playing. So we hear that and we can see her the camera's in the house and we see Renee as she's walking outside passing the windows. And then all of a sudden, like the record kind of like scratches. And then we have the fucking Tiny Tim song.
Tiny Tim.
It's like, dancing through the... That fucking hate that. And now it's time for Jessica's Corner, because I have a
what's in that corner?
Personal issue with this fucking music. So when this movie came out, it was like around, or I don't know if it came out during this time. It was like 2000. Yeah, it was like 2011 is when I saw it. So it was just a year or so after it came out. Watched it, told my roommate I watched it, and I was like, that fucking song is so goddamn scary. And we were just kind of like laughing. It was probably, I want to say like 11 at night. And so the dorm like was kind of all basically like, there were some lights off in the hallways, like people were going to bed. And my roommate, she'd said like, oh, I'm going to go, I have a group study session that we have like a big test coming up or a presentation. So I'm just going to go to the library. I'll be there probably until 2. It's like, okay, cool. See you later. We weren't always together or anything like that. Like I had another roommate and I think she only spent like one weekend there. And she had classes Tuesdays and Thursdays.
I know some people like that.
So I was pretty, like, it was pretty normal for me to just like have the room by myself. Hallelujah. But, so I was like, okay, cool. I'll see you later. And I decided to take a shower because I was like, no one's in the bathroom. I'm going to have it to myself. I can play, my music and it'll be like really relaxing.
Do you wear your sandals?
Oh God, yeah. Oh God. So, but it was an all girls dorm. So like all of the bathrooms were clean. Yeah. But anyways, so I go in and I'm showering and then all of a sudden the lights turn off in the bathroom and my music stops. And then that fucking song starts to play. God. And it is like, I'm the only one in there. I didn't see, and it was probably like 20 minutes or so after my roommate left. So I was freaking out internally and anyways, I start swearing like a motherfucker. And I think I called out her name just because that was the like only thing I could think of. Cause I was like, it has to be, with her I mean, it was like, it has to be Emily. Yeah. And then I'm like, Emily, God damn it, you son of a bitch. And I just hear her start laughing. I was like, you asshole. It was
pretty good.
She did an amazing job. But and I was like, what the fuck are you doing back? You told me you were going to be back like hours later. And she's like, I forgot a book. Fuck you. Whatever. But you know what? She took the time.
What a classic use of it.
Scare me.
Oh man.
Bitch.
I love that.
No, she was great. She was awesome. Okay, so anyways.
You should call her and then just only play that.
I don't know if we had that big of a connection.
I do remember that too. I remember that song being like one of the bigger things that came out of this movie. It's that song and then the kind of jump scare where it's behind Patrick or Josh's shoulder. Yeah. That's like, I think that had to do with the trailer.
Was that kind of the kickoff to having like old songs or like songs sung by kids?
It seems like it.
Like, fitting into
But that's the thing.
movies.
You can be like anything into a horror kind of song, like BioShock, when you have the 1920s kind of music, the roaring 20s, and all you have to do is just have it sound like it's off in the distance, like someone's listening to it,
and no one's there, and you're showering by yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's all you need. But like, because we were talking about that, and you had brought up too that it's in SpongeBob, but it's not like. It didn't feel creepy in SpongeBob.
No, it's not creepy in SpongeBob.
So
He's dancing on condiments.
I think it depends on the context of where it's being used. So that's what I mean. Like,
I
feel like anything could be made to be really creepy. But
anyway, so this music starts to play, and then we see this little, like, almost like a newsy boy, like old school kind of little kid who's just kind of dancing in front of the record player. And Renee, as she's walking back from dropping off the trash, sees him through the windows and kind of rushes in the house. And then, of course, he's gone. But then we hear that fucking giggle, that little kid giggle that I personally think is way too young for the kid that was the newsy kid, the creepy ghost kid.
I think this movie has a lot of really cheap
sound effects,
which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
And you hate to see and hear that because it is really annoying.
Yeah.
You know why? That actor is not a kid.
I'm sorry.
The dancing boy is not a kid. I'm looking it up right now because I had a feeling I know who it is. It's his name is Ben Wolf. He was in from what I remember most recently, he died in 2015. That's too bad. He was in American Horror Story. He was, I know you don't watch, but he was in the circus one, and he's one of like the circus people in it. His name was Meep. He couldn't talk, but that's why, because I remember seeing like his face a little bit, and they do say in the movie, they're like, I thought it was a kid, but that wasn't a kid, and maybe that's what she meant, like. It's not a kid. Yeah. Even though it looks like a kid running around. And I could have sworn I knew that face when I saw it too, because they made sure not to really see his face. Yeah, it's
really hard to see his face.
But anyways, I just wanted to check. But yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. I didn't know that.
Ugh, creepy. But yeah, so she goes throughout the house. Then we have kind of a like broad daylight jump scare where she's in Dalton's room and she's looking through these like cabinets, and then he just kind of pops out and just runs across the screen.
And I was like, I liked it, just because I felt like, especially at that time, we were stuck in like we said, the gory movies, and that was like the thing. And then jump scares were jump scares like galore. Yeah, and that was the movie. It was like jump scares was it when it came to things that were scary. And I'm not saying this isn't a jump scare, but it was kind of like in your face kind of jump scare, if that makes sense. Like it's they like do the whole thing where they pull the rug from underneath you, where they're like, oh, the kid's not there. And they're like, oh, the door's open. Oh, shit. And then he actually walks out and walks in front and leaves. And like you said, in broad daylight, too, it's kind of like a, Jesus Christ, okay. And she's just kind of stuck like
there's like an element of it that you're not fully expecting.
Exactly.
Yeah. So then we have Josh. He comes home to see Renee and his mother, Lorraine, sitting at a table. And they sit him down. And they're explaining to him that the like presence that was basically assaulting them at the old house is doing the same thing here. So it's followed them. Yep. And Lorraine tells Josh that she had a dream about being in their house and being in Dalton's room and seeing this monster. And this monster is telling her that it wants Dalton. And Lorraine tells Josh that she knows someone who they can contact and who could help them with this issue. And this whole time, Renee has like she's been talking to priests and trying to figure out what to do. And as they're discussing like possibly reaching out to this person, then they hear this like really loud bang, and they try and like, they know that it's coming from Dalton's room. So they all try and go to the room. Of course, the door's locked. Eventually they pry it open and the room is just fucking destroyed. It's ripped up. Dalton's on the floor. What?
Was that the jump scare though? No. When they're sitting at the table and they're talking.
Oh, yeah.
So before that happens was the jump scare that I think most people remember. And I think part of that has to do with like the trailer that came out. So this is the first time that we're seeing the demon's like full on face.
Half face.
Yeah. So the demon is actually the composer of the movie. He's a creepy looking dude. I'd have to say. I don't mean that in a bad way.
In the best way.
In the best way. Joseph Bishara. Oh, so Joseph Bishara is also the woman in
I thought that was the
Conjuring.
nun.
I'm not sure. But anyways, so the composer, like I said, plays the demon, which they call the lipstick face demon. So
it's
this
so
is why
stupid because like there's moments where they refer to him as kind of like, or hinting that he's the devil, and then they call him the man with the fire face, and then we like the red handprint that was supposed to be on Dalton's bed looked like, when I first saw it, I thought it was supposed to be blood, but it looks really bad. And then I'm like, okay, so is it paint? And then you were telling me like, no, it's either kind of paint or lipstick. Which I'm like, do you know how much lipstick you'd have to go through?
I know, just to rub it on your hands.
It's a waste of time and money.
I just remember reading it online and stuff, and that was kind of like apparently that's what
that's just really
the
stupid.
makers had said that they regret, in the sense of they felt like they didn't make it clear enough as to what that was, because I'm sure they got a lot of people being like, yeah, it was blood, right? And they're like, no, it wasn't blood. It was supposed to be red paint.
I don't understand how you could walk away from that and assume that people aren't going to think that is blood.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, that's
they should have done it in black or something. I don't know.
Something.
Yeah, so then at this point they hear the loud noise, they go to Dalton's room, Dalton's on the ground, and we see these like, again, these red handprints kind of over the room as well. So Josh has now been pushed to the point where he's seen what Renee has been experiencing. He's like, okay, so we do need to bring this person in. And the person that they bring in is Elise. And she comes to their house and she greets Josh like she's known him. And she explains too that she knew him when he was younger because she's been friends with his mom forever. She walks through the house with two of her assistants, and they have all these stupid little gadgets in every fucking scary movie or like paranormal movie where like, oh, we made it ourselves, but it like, you know, measures UV rays and blah, blah, and all this stuff where it's like, it's basically a kaleidoscope.
Yeah, I'm going to have a Rob corner. So like I said, I used to watch a lot of ghost, you know, like TV shows or whatever. And regardless of what I think of it now, I have to give some kind of credit or credence to some of the shows in the sense that when they use technology, obviously they never can explain fully as to how the technology works. But like if you compare it to from those to this movie, you have like the UV or the ultraviolet, you know, capturing. A lot of shows, if not like Paranormal Investigators, they're using full-on cameras, whereas this motherfucker is literally using a kaleidoscope, like you said. And
it's like one of those
just
little like,
yeah,
that will switch
as like a kid,
pictures. Yeah, well,
and it's annoying because to me it's like very much kind of highlights how
stupid.
Yeah, well, like, yeah. I mean, this isn't the only movie that does that, but I feel like a lot of movies tend to do that too, where they'll find like one specific phrase or wording that what they're trying to portray uses. Yeah. So ghosts, you know, investigators or whatever use, they'll take that one, expand on it just a little bit, and then that's the justification, or like that's how you know that they know their shit.
And they just tell you like what they're measuring. Like, we're measuring temperature drops in here, and like lighting changes.
It's like and I'm not comparing science to the paranormal investigating, but it's similar in the sense like in movies where they try to like, they obviously don't have a scientist on hand, or when they're going to have a space movie, obviously now you have to have someone who knows their shit. So yeah, you got to have some kind of consultant, otherwise you have no idea what you're talking about. And I find like it's the same thing within movies and ghost stuff, because their gadgets are just like laughable at this point, yet so everything they capture is like amazing if you're going into the paranormal world or whatever. Because in the paranormal world now, you'll look at a dust and you'll be like, holy fuck, look at that ghost. It's a circle, just like us. We're all circles. But yeah, I just find like stuff like that's just so annoying to see.
Absolutely. So they're walking through the house. Elise and her two assistants go into Dalton's room, and one of her assistants brings out a sketchbook, and Elise starts whispering to him because she sees a like ominous figure in the corner of Dalton's room. And he's sketching really fast, and then all of a sudden we see this picture of the same demon that we saw that was behind Josh, just kind of perched in Dalton's room. So Elise takes Josh and Renee to the living room with her assistants, and she explains what's going on. She says that they don't have a lot of time, and what's happened to Dalton is not because of his fall, but he is what she calls a gifted traveler.
I'd be like, no shit, lady. He fell like barely a foot.
He tripped. So she says that like Dalton, when he goes to bed, he doesn't dream, but he travels to like another dimension and blah blah. And it's all this stupid shit that a lot of movies have. And then she calls this other realm, I call it the further. The further. Where it's like, oh, is it the under, the further, the upside down, the here, the now? What the fuck? I hate that shit. It's so annoying. And so she then explains that like Dalton has, because he thinks he's dreaming when he's actually traveling, he's not afraid. So he's gone too far into the further, and he has kind of detached his soul from his body.
Okay. Yeah.
What?
Well, I was just thinking like, how hasn't
Josh
done the same thing? Yeah,
because she also explains that the reason that he's such a gifted traveler is because it's been passed down by his father.
It's hereditary. I was saying this when they were going through this. I don't mind the I kind of like the playing around with the out of body experience,
like the lucid
and what
dream.
that means.
Yeah.
Because it does feel like a very much unknown. Like I've had family members who have gone through that,
Experienced death,
which is
and
really
come back
weird.
from
Yeah,
it.
and that's coming from people who like are further from even believing anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it adds more validity to like just how they felt or their feelings or what they saw. But it's just like I kind of like the idea of that.
I don't
it's
mind
a little
the concept.
different.
I hate the way they explain it.
Because exactly, it's like the concept I think is really cool because it's like, let's just say you're there, you're out of body. What does happen if you just decide to walk out and go further, but you decide to walk away? Like, are you actually, can you explore, or are you going somewhere else? Yeah. So I think the concept is cool, but
the execution
is not as
lacking. So she's explaining to this, and Lorraine, Josh's mom, is also there too. And she tells Josh that when he was a young boy and she would take pictures of him, she started to notice that there was like this shadowy figure in the background. And then as time went on, the image got clearer, and it was actually this like woman in black who kept on coming closer and closer to Josh with basically every picture that was taken. So one would think maybe stop taking fucking photos. But and that's how she knows Elise, because she called on Elise for her help to help Josh, and they were able to basically kind of like block him from remembering or like knowing how to travel in his dreams. But he doesn't remember this, but he still has this lingering thing where he doesn't like getting his picture taken. So there's like a reference earlier in the movie where they're looking through photos, and I think it's Dalton who asks, why aren't there any photos of Daddy? And Renee just says like, oh, he doesn't like his picture taken. So they're kind of doing a callback. But this whole time, Josh is not believing what they're saying. He kind of pushes back, and he's like, you guys are just con artists. This is like, there's no fucking way this is happening to my son. My son's in a coma. Like, get out. We don't need your help.
And he even points out too, he's like, why am I being the only like rationally thinking person
why
here?
is the sane person the bad guy? Because they're
which
like,
is very
Josh,
true.
why aren't you helping our son?
And he's just like, am I crazy? Am I taking crazy pills?
This guy.
But we were just like, yeah, he's right.
That's exactly.
He's speaking exactly how he should be speaking. Bye.
Goodbye.
And then then everyone just leaves.
Everyone leaves. And then he goes to Dalton's room because he's emotional. He doesn't know what's going on. And as he is looking around Dalton's room, he sees these pictures that Dalton has been drawing. And we see that Dalton's been drawing the same demon figure that that Elise had just drawn out.
It's funny, like if you listen to like how each person describes the demon, it's a little bit different. Like Renee described the eyes being like pitch dark black when they're
like not at all, they're like yellow.
And then Elise, she like described another feature about it that was also kind of the opposite, and then ends up or the other thing too was she could have just like looked at the drawings that were in the room. Like,
well, that's what we said too. Like if she was in Dalton's room, if she was a good con artist, she would pick up shit from that room. Which she had drawings displayed.
Yeah, like if I was the father, if I was Josh and I was looking at it, like, oh, okay, this is confirmation.
This is how she did it.
Yeah, this would only help make me feel a little bit better about my decision for having it. Like,
but the opposite happens.
Yeah, he's just
and he's like, oh, she's right. So,
which I also want to note too, like this also shows his range in the movie, because you hear him like like crying.
Not a good crier.
It's just not it. His range is not great in this movie, and you see the same thing with him in the hospital being told that his kid's in a fucking coma. And Renee, she's crying, and you can tell that she's
much
hurting.
More of an emotional actress, which is like she definitely can emote that.
And I didn't take it from him being like the strong, like.
No, he just seems kind of like doesn't care. Like
it's like he passive. It felt a little off. And anyways.
So they of course end up calling Elise and her team back. They do the whole setup sequence where they're, plugging shit in and setting things up. And then they are setting up a table where they're all sitting down, and they're in Dalton's room, and she basically tells him that she's going to try and contact Dalton and talk to him. She puts on this stupid fucking gas mask. That is basic. I mean, I half expected them to bring out tin cans with a string attached to them. It's so stupid because she's like, I'm going to be talking so quietly, but this tube attached to this gas mask will be hooked up to headphones that my assistant can hear. And as the audience, you can hear what she's saying. Like, yeah, she's whispering, but you can hear it.
She talks like, is it Milton from The Office
I
Space?
think so. Miss Steepler.
Miss Steepler.
I'm going to burn it down. So we go through kind of this weird seance-like situation where she is almost put into this trance. She's contacting Dalton, and we hear that Dalton is hiding in the further, and he's afraid of the man with the fire on his face.
Which is another
description
where, like, what is
description
happening?
where it's like, what? Anyway, so he
literally meant
I'm scared of the lipstick man.
red on his face.
Yeah.
It's like fire. He's like 10
and again,
years old.
That's the thing where it's like, you think that a 10-year-old would be able to like say like, I'm scared of the man with the painted face or something like that. Like, he does not have fire on his face. The only fire in the further is just a bunch of candelabras.
They might as well just have the baby be him.
Right. Because he calls his parents mommy and daddy.
You're just like, grow up.
I didn't want to hold my mom's hand in kindergarten because I was like, I'm too old for this. If anyone sees me, no way,
Mother
man.
figure.
I started calling her Teresa at like age 6. Anyways, so we're hearing this conversation, and then Dalton gets more and more worried because he thinks the man with the fire face is going to hear him. And of course he does. And then all of a sudden we hear what this demon is saying, and he's like calling Elise this bitch and this whore and like just insulting her and telling her he's going to like rip up her guts and all this stuff. And then we see Dalton and his like comatose figure standing at the table, slams his hand down, and everyone goes flying. And then shit hits the fan. That was when I was like,
oh, this is weird.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. It doesn't
compared
really
to the rest
feel...
of the movie that we just saw. All up until then, it was like, oh, okay, we're gonna go this route.
Yeah. So then it's kind of like this basically tornado starts happening in this room. And like all of these spirits have kind of been released or something. They're attacking Renee and Josh.
It's that same demon that was attacking Renee to begin with. Now he's licking her head.
Ugh, God. At least it's not her eyeball. But we have like the assistants being attacked. We have Elise grabbing the body of Dalton, grabbing the hair of Dalton and like trying to expel the demon within him. And during this time, there are pictures that are being taken by the cameras that have been set up. And eventually everything kind of like calms down. The demons, the spirits go away. And we look at one of the pictures that was taken, and we can see the main demon, the lipstick man, kind of using Dalton as a puppet. Because at one point, Dalton like hits Elise away, and that was the moment that the picture was taken. We can see the demons.
Yeah,
like,
it's interesting. The demon is not going inside of him or like, you know,
he's a puppet
possessing
master.
it. He's just he's using him as a puppet.
So then the team kind of regroups, and they come to the conclusion that the only person that can pull Dalton out of the further is someone who has been to the further. And
they have like a shot of Specs and
which is one of the assistants.
And
Tucker, I think.
Yeah, Tucker. They're in the kitchen just like talking over shit. And then Specs has like steak.
He has his head on the countertop in the kitchen, and he has like basically raw steak sandwiching his head.
And once again, notice how they just use fucking flank steak. Just like cheap ass steak. What's with movies using cheap ass steak?
Because it's cheap ass steak. But the thing is like, even if it's cheap ass steak, use a fucking bag of frozen peas.
Yeah.
Who doesn't have that in their fridge somewhere? Like, I don't care how old it is. Why do you need steak? I would be so pissed.
And we get it. It's an homage to Poltergeist, which is lucky for us that, you know, we
saw that before.
Hey, episode like 2 or something was like Poltergeist. That. So if you haven't listened to that, listen to that. But this whole movie essentially is an homage, or like, you know, is very much influenced by Poltergeist and what happens.
So they conclude that Josh needs to go into the further, find Dalton, and bring him back. They kind of do a hypnosis session where he's listening to this metronome and he's sitting back, and Elise is talking him through this.
Yep.
And she mentions too at one point, don't draw attention to yourself, because all of the spirits that are in the further are malicious. And what they want is they want another chance at life. And what you're doing is giving them basically an opening into your body.
He's basically a lure. on a fishing pole, and they're all fish.
They're all hungry, bitchin' basses.
Yeah.
Big mouth.
Big mouth bitch.
Okay. So he ends up being able to kind of have his soul leave his body.
He's exploring the further.
Which is basically their old, like he's in kind of this pitch black area where he has this little lantern. He can't see anything. And then all of a sudden he's taken to their old house.
Front house.
So
and I will say too, this movie, the budget was $1.5 million. So the budget wasn't insanely big. And do you know how long it took them to film this movie?
2 weeks.
3 weeks.
Oh my God.
Yeah. They filmed that's pretty good. But yeah, they filmed this in 3 weeks. So yeah. I'm knowing that too, and like seeing how they show the further and how it's just kind of like blackness, and then you see the house. Mm-hmm. Interesting, but at least I think it's a good choice in the sense of like the budget that they had and the timing.
3 weeks. That is impressive.
Right.
So Josh is entering their old house, and the whole kind of lighting is very dramatic. It's very dark. We have all the fog kind of. So clearly he's in the further.
Yeah.
As he's walking through the house, he starts asking random spirits, "Hey, have you seen Dalton?"
Yeah.
Like he just doesn't give a fuck. And he's walking around. He's seeing all these like creepy people that like have shot themselves or their families. And then he's like just wandering around. He eventually is kind of led upstairs into the attic, and he sees at the end of the attic is this red door. And we have a callback, again, like a flashback to some of Dalton's pictures that he's drawn. Mm-hmm. And it's very clear there's a red door. So Josh knows he has to go into that one. There's a little bit of a fight and a struggle between the weird kind of demonic spirit that had attacked Renee, and he eventually is able to kind of like push him away, get him away from this.
It felt so cheesy to me because he just does a push.
He's like it does like an anime push.
Yeah.
Like so he ends up going up the red door, and this whole scene looked like a stage from Phantom of the Opera. It was like
extra.
It was so extra. It was so stupid. But Josh hears Dalton whimpering. He goes down, grabs him, and Dalton is kind of shackled up. And so Josh helps him break the chains. And then we see Dalton's face, and he's kind of staring past Josh. And Josh turns around, and we see, like, again, this stained glass window. And the camera kind of goes up into this room. And this is, again, where we hear the fucking Tiny Tim song playing.
It's his favorite song.
Fuck. Why the hell the devil would like that song?
Demon.
I'm sorry. The demon would like that song. But we are shown like all of these creepy masks and puppets. So like it's very obvious, like, oh, he's a puppeteer, which I didn't really like. I thought that was too much. You're like giving too much to I don't know. I just thought that was kind of cheesy.
I'm indifferent.
But as we're kind of being shown around the room, we see this demon sharpening his nails on this like.
It's interesting. They're not his own nails. Like he doesn't have nails of his own. He has to make like.
It's like jewelry.
Freddy Krueger kind of.
Yeah. But then at this point, like we're taken back to Josh and Dalton, who are staring up at this window, and then we see that like the demon has seen them, and so the demon comes down, starts to fight them. Josh is able to kind of fight him off for a little bit. He scoops up Dalton, and now they have to find their way back to their new home.
I know we kind of went over just pretty quickly, but I just wanted to know: did you the house when he was going through, and we're seeing like the doll-like figures or like the ghosts there that he was interacting with that he shouldn't have been interacting with anyways?
Yeah.
Did you get the feeling that like those were the past homeowners, like the people that used to live in that house, and they're trying to show like the kid got crazy and killed the mom, dad?
That would make sense, but then I don't understand the guy in the kind of dark trench coat who was targeting. I don't know who that was.
I don't either.
So, and then we have a lot of other spirits that are part of it. So I'm not really sure.
For some reason, the only thing I thought of was, let's say the guy in the trench coat knew the daughter, or like he was in like let's just say he was insinuating to her that in order for them to have the life that they want to have, it's like the classic, you got to kill your family, your parents, and escape.
Is this a storyline that you're making up?
Yes, the abuse that you're, whatever. Like they're using her to get what they want.
Manipulative partner who's
for some reason I thought of that in my head when he was like fighting him. But that's all I was thinking. I'm like, what is he?
You should write a movie.
Yeah, it'll do terrible.
So Josh is carrying Dalton and they're going through the further, and they're being surrounded by all of these spirits, but eventually they break away. They find their kind of current house in the further. They go in and Dalton is like running to the living room, or either like the living room or his bedroom. I'm sure it's probably his bedroom to go back to his body. And he tells like Josh, "Come on, Daddy, let's go." Which that's so fucking stupid. Josh seems to kind of have lost his breath because he's looking like exhausted, and he just like stops in the kitchen and tells Dalton to go ahead and he'll catch up. Which you're at the home stretch, just go for it.
I didn't know you can get tired as a ghost. I would assume you just have
your soul
stamina.
Is tired.
Yeah, my
soul is very tired.
But he gets distracted, and they're very specific about that.
So he like sees Dalton run off, and then as Josh is kind of moving through the kitchen to go back to his body, he is distracted by the woman in black. He sees the woman in black. And is it in the bathroom that he sees her, in the mirror? I think it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah. So for some, like, I can't remember how he ends up going from the kitchen to the bathroom instead of...
Well, that's the thing. Like, she looked like she was in the bathroom because she had a sink, but he didn't have a sink, or it didn't look like there was a sink below him, from what I remember. Because he pointed out the sink for her.
No, there is a sink for him, not for her.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought it was the opposite.
But so he goes in the bathroom and he's looking in the mirror, and his reflection is the woman in black. And he yells at her and tells her she has no power, get out of here.
Yep.
We're led to believe that she is now kind of expelled. So he ends up waking up. Now we're kind of in the living realm. And the nearer is what I like to call it. So he wakes up, and then we hear Dalton wake up too. Yeah, like how my mom wakes up from naps.
Yeah.
Oh, what time is it?
I would wake up and I'd go, and there'd be like mobs coming out of my mouth. Just like what's his name, Freddy from Hocus Pocus or whatever the zombie, whatever his name is, where he like cuts open his mouth. Not and he goes,
yeah. So now everything's great. Like everything's back to normal. They're like grabbing Dalton, and it's Renee and Josh's mom Lorraine in the kitchen with Dalton. He's like scarfing down Pescetti, which again, I'm so fucking hungry.
And one meatball.
It's not enough meatballs.
It's a big meatball, to be fair.
So. And they're just kind of talking to him. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, we're so happy to have you, honey." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm hungry and I'm tired."
I'm hungry, mommy.
They're like, "Fuck you, you're never going to sleep again." And in the living room, Elise is packing up her stuff. Her assistants are outside packing the van. And Josh is kind of helping her put away her stuff. And they're just talking back and forth, and he's thanking her for all her help. And he hands her the old photos of him. And he's like, "Here, we won't need these anymore," because I think Lorraine had brought them as like evidence to show Josh that this presence has been following him. So he hands them to Elise. And as he does, Elise looks at his hand. She gets freaked out. And she's like, "Oh, okay, thank you." And then he just kind of starts talking again, doesn't really notice. Elise grabs a camera and then just takes a picture of him right away, which enrages him. He gets so pissed. He's like, "Why would you do that, you fucking bitch?"
Yeah, bitch.
So he ends up strangling her.
Full on strangling her in the other room.
In the living room. And like we said, this is not a big house.
No.
And then the camera takes us to the kitchen where we have, again, Lorraine, Renee, and Dalton. And we just kind of hear muffled.
Yeah, you barely hear it.
Like a number two with a darker second window.
So we just kind of hear this like muffled sound from Josh, and Renee gets up and she's like, I'm just gonna go check on them. She goes into the other room
This
and
bitch is dead.
the bitch is dead. And she goes up to Elise, who it looks like she's just sitting in a chair because we just see the back of her. And then she sees that Elise has been strangled.
Yep.
She's running around trying to find Josh, again, screaming in the house. The mom, Lorraine, and Dalton still in the kitchen. The assistants still outside, not hearing anything. And then Renee comes back to Elise's body and she sees that Elise had this camera. She looks at the picture and then we see like Josh's hand kind of touch her back.
He goes,
like,
hello, dear.
hello, honey. I don't know what he says. And then Renee turns around and goes, and then it ends.
And then it comes back Insidious, and I had to turn down the TV because we had it
so fucking
loud. I actually I felt kind of bad because I feel like our neighbor can hear.
Oh, absolutely. But you know what? I don't feel that bad because I hear our neighbor's fucking dog.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the end of that movie.
That's the movie.
That's the movie. Sorry, that was kind of a long.
Well, there's more to this movie than I remembered, and going through that, makes sense. Yeah. So the last kind of stuff I have for this is the budget. Like I said, was $1.5 million. It made $97 million, so it did very well.
Yeah.
And some of the other smaller stuff. There was a scene with Josh at his work, and then you see the jigsaw doll drawn.
There's a little sketch of him on the chalkboard.
Not so subtle.
It's so it's so clear.
It got a lot of screen time.
Face, yeah.
And obviously we see that because James Wan and Specs both were a part of that movie. Specs was in it. James, I'm not sure if I think he directed, but both were writers for it. And then I guess so. Like Insidious was also started because James Wan was afraid of being typecast as a guy who could only scare people with gore, i.e. Saw and stuff. So he directed Insidious to show horror fans that he could produce a viable atmospheric horror film.
Yeah.
So, I'm with that. Let's just dive into the reviews. Let's see what other people have to say about this movie because I'm curious. The average review is 6.9 for both male and female.
I feel like I don't know. I think it would be higher.
I mean, 6.9 on IMDb is pretty high for a horror movie.
Think so?
Yeah. Usually don't get that high unless it's
good.
Like a I was gonna say like a classic or something, like if you're talking about Exorcist or Poltergeist or something. Review number 1: scariest movie I've seen in years. 10 out of 10. I went into this movie confident that it would be cheesy, campy romp with the same tried and true tricks of the trade. Like when the hero is investigating the creepy music coming from the basement and the cat jumps into frame. But I quickly discovered that this would not be the case with Insidious.
Yeah, well,
After watching The Move and obsessing on it for...
Which one? They had 2 moves.
They moved a lot. For 12 hours now, I can honestly say it's one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. In fact, there were several points during the film where I screamed like a 13-year-old girl at a Justin Bieber concert. Justin Bieber. Oh, this is 2010, by the way.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mainly because I was, keep in mind, I was consciously trying to keep my hardest to keep my composure, mainly because I was sitting beside my new girlfriend of 2 months. She, incidentally, didn't make a peep.
Fuck you.
Thankfully, I later found out she had her eyes closed the whole time.
The whole time?
How could you be that scared of...
I don't think
I've ever been that scared of a movie.
I think I covered my eyes for Saw 3D, but that was just because I was like, I'm getting sick.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I just don't.
That's true. Like
there was no plot to it, so I was like, I'm not missing anything.
That's very true. Like when I say I don't think I ever would, I definitely do for like The Exorcist, but I only do it with the fucking blood scene in The Exorcist.
Yeah,
I can't see it. I get so queasy. I can't look at that. But when it comes to like scary shit, like it's purely just for scare stuff.
Yeah.
Have at it. Give me it. I was also expecting to see some blood and guts, especially coming from the guys who made Saw. But there wasn't a drop. Instead, they used just about everything else in their arsenal to scare the bejesus out of me and everyone else in the theater.
Lipstick.
My girlfriend included.
Did he say that?
Yeah.
I don't think he has a girlfriend.
From literally the opening credits, they created an intense, haunting tension that didn't leave my body till several whiskeys and a half a Xantax later. Wow.
This person definitely doesn't have
I got some troubles. And the movie constantly feeds the tension, making even the characters' mundane family life seem utterly terrifying.
I will agree with that. You know, when they were getting ready in the mornings for breakfast and that baby was fucking screaming the whole time. Absolutely not. That is my nightmare.
Yeah. I was actually exhausted leaving the theater from all of the uncomfortable squirming I was unable to control. I'd say it's the most calories I've ever burned while watching a movie. Well, at least a PG-13 movie. I want to know what rated R movie, what the difference is for them. Yeah. Overall, the movie was great. They haven't explained anything, by the way.
I don't like this review.
They just say like how they felt.
Seems like this person seems like a very annoying person.
Right. Overall, the movie was great. It was great. It was crazy scary though. Thoroughly entertaining and even surprisingly funny at times. He's got to be talking about the Specs Tucker shit.
That was not funny.
Yeah. Having said that, it will be quite some time before I watch another horror movie. I have no desire to be turned into a frazzled bunch of nerves again anytime soon. So if you plan on seeing this movie, please consider this a cautionary reminder. It's probably best to go with someone who's already witnessed you have a complete physical and mental breakdown, so as to avoid embarrassing driving home.
Because this guy has a girlfriend.
Yeah, and maybe bring a Xanax. What
the fuck is wrong with you?
That was the top rated, by the way.
What an idiot.
All right. Review number 2. This film was one that I honestly thought was going to be genuine. 2 out of 10. I'm a fan of all types of movies, especially very good ones.
Are you serious?
What a line to start with.
Oh my God.
You know what? I too am a fan of good.
I'm brave enough to say that I like really good movies.
We're going to have to delete that. Mark that. We can't have that in here.
As a couple, we can overcome this, but I just had to be honest with you.
We're going to have to talk
Maybe
about
not
this.
though, yeah.
When I decided to check this one out, I read quite a lot of reviews on the site about it beforehand, and the majority was how frightening it was. Everybody not only said it was good, but that it was the scariest film they've ever seen. To be fair, the poster art is pristine. I guess.
We'll have to look that up.
Whoever was responsible for the poster definitely did a brilliant job. The boy standing in front of the house with a red shirt and a demonic eyes looks amazing. I put the movie in, started playing it, and seriously prepared myself.
Is that it?
I'm not going to dump on anyone's review. This will be straightforward. A small, portable intercom that confidently picks up audio from another area has been done before, people. Instead of aliens, it's a demon.
Whoa.
The woman, being a piano player in general, has been done before also. Instead of haunted house, it's a haunted boy. The orphanage. The orphanage?
I don't know that one.
I don't either. And Oh yes. The premise of a child being abducted by evil spirits that ultimately encompasses one of the parents having to cross the boundaries into another world to rescue them, in case you forgot or are not aware of, was already thoroughly covered in a spectacular 1982 Steven Spielberg film called Poltergeist. It's not Steven Spielberg, by the way. Instead of a little girl, it's a little boy. They even managed to steal the idea of the outside help who enter and examine their spooky home.
Yeah.
2 men and 1 woman. Exactly the same scenario. Except that in Poltergeist, the 3 characters delivered intelligent lines and dynamic performances. In Insidious, their lines are incredibly flat, and their actings, particularly the 2 guys, could rival any performance from a Japanese Godzilla film. That's pretty good. Now, aside from the fact that this movie rips off from everything in sight, I'll focus on the level of the scare meter. Okay. Mm-hmm. The scares are equal to a fairgrounds haunted house. They involve a character dressed in very cheap makeup and go brawr right after the director yells action, and then, of course, adding in post-production a loud piece of music. That's silly filmmaking. I don't think he's wrong.
No.
I've never said the following words in my whole life, but I mean this. The poster is misleading. It's so misleading, in fact, the poster is more interesting to look at than watching the entire film. I only mentioned a few films that this silly movie steals from, but there's actually more. If the storyline had some originality to it and the whole project was more respectfully constructed, this could have been a memorable trip. Every other movie I mentioned here, I highly recommend. Signs, The Orphanage, Poltergeist, and of course, The Exorcist are all excellent. Insidious is cartoon scares and dull thrills. The following is a massive spoiler. The Boy. Even though you're expecting him to frighten the living hell out of you, he does absolutely nothing. Regan in The Exorcist lives up to all the hype. Watch that instead.
I would agree. I mean, I think we actually talked about this movie after we did Poltergeist.
Yes.
We mentioned this movie when we were recording that, and there are so many elements of Poltergeist that are in this movie that it almost feels like a refreshed version.
It does. It does feel like that. I don't know if I would compare it to The Exorcist and Regan. You have Regan who was possessed, where it's actually in his body. Yet they're specific in this movie where he's being used as a puppet, right? Yeah. And his soul or whatever is walking out of itself and is somewhere else and not being inhabited by something else. Yeah. So I wouldn't say that those are similar scenarios.
I think it's probably just like the kid in the bed.
Yeah.
That's probably where.
Yeah. All I want to say, one more thing. If you open the trivia page on the site, you'll see that the writer stated a film festival that he wanted to avoid any movie cliches. I personally found that information to be shockingly hilarious. If you haven't seen this movie yet, check out the trivia first, then check out the film. If you're a regular movie goer who knows a ripoff when you see one, then the trivia will have you rolling on the floor and laughing.
Would you say this is a ripoff? Or how would you say it?
I think it would be less of what I guess it would be. I feel like saying it's a ripoff is harsh. And I think I feel that way just because of the out of body experience, kind of like what they go into, but we talked about how they didn't really go into it as much as they could have. Yeah. Like they could have really leaned into that and explained it better. And if they would have done that, then this movie probably would have been a lot more concise and interesting.
Yeah.
And it would have better direction in terms of like what people do next, or what he's going to do. Like he wasn't very menacing to me.
The little boy.
He was only menacing. No, the boy was menacing to me when he was fucking with his brother. Like that's when and they specifically made him be really creepy because they have like shots where he's like, Dalton keeps waking me up at night or whatever, and you have the shots where you see him in his bed and he's in his bed. There's times like that are like, that's pretty creepy. As a kid,
it's very passive.
It's very passive, yeah. But then after that, it just turns into not that at all. It's
He's
not
just
as
an
creepy.
annoying kid who acts under his age.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like they were all over the place when it came to what this movie could have been. And I don't think things were explained very well.
I think they were leaning...
Especially the demon, too.
Yeah, I don't think it was a ripoff, but I think they were leaning too heavily on Poltergeist.
I think they were influenced a lot by certain scenarios in Poltergeist. And I think they are right where they're saying, like, Poltergeist had better performances.
Absolutely,
and they were able to explain things better.
It's a better movie.
It is a better movie.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. Review number 3.
Like,
wow. What a turd.
Okay, I wasn't expecting that.
1 out of 10. I was waiting for that one too. I was so happy to do it. This movie was slow, boring, and painful. But at least it was long.
How long was it?
Is this about the turd? They took some of the storylines of Poltergeist and The Exorcist and made a new movie out of them. The beginning is way too long and drawn out. The rest is goofy and or predictable. The assistant's coming to evaluate the situation was really pointless. The medium already knew the father's history, so she knew it was most likely real. Was she testing her assistants? What was the point? Couldn't it have been for the audience's sake? We've already seen proof by then, as have the parents, so all that was a waste.
I mean, did Josh see proof? Because I don't think he saw anything until it happened, like, to Dalton's room.
Yeah.
But that should be enough.
That should be a lot.
So him kind of pushing back after, I think, is, legitimate. Yeah.
But it felt like it was just so they could shock us with blaring music notes while we see creepy ghosts in corners. We've seen all that before. It's a cliche, and it wasn't needed. The father not realizing he was actually asleep and outside his body has also been done before several times.
More like when?
That's the thing. Like, can you just cite
Give
it,
me one
please?
example.
Yeah, give me one. So much that it's expected. When it's expected, it's not scary or shocking. It's boring. Him walking through the realm of darkness wasn't bad. But again, it seems like it was so they could shock us more with extremely loud notes and ghosts with creepy smiles.
Extremely loud.
Extremely loud. How many times have we seen this before? Seriously.
Seriously, guys.
Seriously. Simply a bad movie. Go watch The Exorcist and Poltergeist. You'll see what they were trying to do here, only better. I still think that
I don't know if it was original enough, though, because they don't... I mean, there's only like one scene, really, where they're in the further.
Right.
It just feels like a very short point in the movie.
Yeah. I don't know. Part of the trivia that I forgot, too, for this movie, the composer said that some of the noises that you hear is a piano. The do is a piano, but it's a broken piano. So those are broken strings. So that's like very focused on some of those noises. And that's what you hear. You hear him like, and I guess he like found it. They like found this piano somewhere and it was completely broken and he was playing around with it and he's like, ooh, okay.
This is spooky.
Yeah. So they decided to film and they recorded those noises.
I like that.
So,
I guess.
Yeah, I forgot to add that in, but you
just did.
All right. It's final review time.
We should have an air horn like that.
Yeah. Can we add in the sound? Can we add in the sound effects?
Yeah.
Guess what? Here it is. Wow. Wow. What a noise. That was pretty cool. Jessica, I'm going to have you go first and you tell me what is your final rating for Insidious 2010?
I'm probably going to give this like a 5.4.
5.4?
Yeah. I think I mean I like the fact that this wasn't a movie that like relied heavily on gore or anything like that. As much as I was complaining about having to watch it again, like it's a movie that I have seen so often and there's a reason for that. I don't love it just because I think, like I said, they lean a little bit too much on previous films. And there are certain, like, I didn't love all the acting. So, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's a fair movie.
So, like I said, I do like this movie, or like I have liked this movie. I've watched it a lot too. So I have like my own kind of, subjective points to it or whatever. Thinking about it, I was like, baseline, does it hit 5? Rewatchability, performances and all that too. I agree. I don't think the performances are great. Rewatchability though, I do think there is rewatchability to it.
Yeah. And I would like, if someone hadn't seen this movie, I would recommend it.
Yeah. It's tough because I know like the trivia now and I know the behind the scenes, but I also like think about it within the context of when it came out too.
Yeah.
And I feel like that kind of helps. I'm going to give it a 5.8.
I knew it.
I'm going to give it a 5.8. Like I said, I do like, there obviously are flaws with this movie. Yeah. There's some things that are pretty cool and pretty fun with it. Like I do like the fact that it is a movie that literally has no blood at all. There's creepiness to it. There was a part where when he was going through the house, when he's in the further and he's walking through the house, he goes into that one room where you hear the woman crying.
Oh yeah, he does. Yeah.
I was like, when is it going to happen? It never happens. As in like she pops out or something happens. I'm like, okay. Oh, so that was, okay. Yeah. But I remember feeling some kind of tension there. And I feel like, for me, that's like fun indicators of like, I'm getting into it a little bit. Yeah. And I liked a lot of some of the other sequences, like we said, with the kid and how they played around with the newsboy kid and stuff.
Yeah.
I like the music.
I think the very sharp chords that they have, definitely it has the effect that I think they wanted it to have.
Yeah.
It's very unnerving, it's uncomfortable. I think some of the kind of ways that they edited the film, even just with like temperature and like saturation and everything like that,
Yeah.
there's a very cold feeling to it.
Yep.
But there are also moments where you have this relief.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they like, it's not in your face, but it's all these subtle things to help the viewer feel what I think they want you to feel.
Yeah,
which I think they did
but also to feel
job.
like you're not completely safe, because things happen in broad daylight too.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, and I'm not saying just because it's something that's never been done before, or like it's different or something, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's good. But I think based on what he was trying to do, I think he did a pretty good job at it, and obviously they did a great job because they made a shit ton of money after that. But yeah, so I'm gonna give it a 5.8.
Nice.
So with that, thank you so much for listening to the first episode of season 2, 2021. For more updates about new episodes, reach out, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest. We're all of those are under at FAD_podcast. We like to post about new episodes that are coming out, posting trivia on different things.
We're gonna try out and see if we can start pairing some drinks.
Yeah. Jessica's gonna start making some cocktails. Yeah.
We'll see.
But that'll be really fun too, because I think people,
because we'll get drunk.
Yeah. Well, at first I was thinking like it'd be for really shitty movies we start drinking, but then again, let's do things.
Drink for all movies.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, during this movie or this review, I was drinking cold press with some Baileys in it, so that was fun.
It's fun for me to watch.
And guess what? We're also on YouTube, so watch us on YouTube. We're everywhere, and also just let us know what movies you want to see us review. We'll review anything within the spooky sphere, and we'll throw it on the spooky spinner.
Yeah, give you a shout out too. Okay, well,
and so with that,
get the hell out of here.
Adieu to you, Jessica.
And Folie, adieu to you, too.
Tell me way, blow the man down, and pray pay attention and listen to me. Give me some time to blow the man down. I'm a deep water sailor just in from Hong Kong. Tell me way, blow the man down. If you give me some grog, I'll sing.